Sleep was never something I learned after 22 years in Delta Force. You don't rest, you monitor noise. You catalog threats, even in dreams. So when the vibration hummed across my nightstand at 2:47 p.m., my brain was already awake. The school's name flashed on my screen. Mr. Cooper, a woman's voice shook. There's been an incident. It's your son. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. They train you to react before emotion sets in. I don't remember grabbing the keys, or my wallet, or the sidearm I kept disassembled inside the glove box. I just remember the road bleeding under my tires. 15 minutes, shaved to 9. Freddie's school sat behind a row of oaks, banners fluttering like nothing had happened. Kids still played football on the opposite field, like my world wasn't collapsing. The hospital smelled the same everywhere: ethanol, stale air, and fear. The hallway to ICU buzzed with that sound you never forget, a defibrillator low beat, the rhythm between life and loss. Through glass, I saw my 17-year-old boy lying there, tubes in his arms, ventilator pushing his chest up and down like he was still breathing on his own. His hair shaved at one side, heavy bandages across the swelling of his skull. His right eye was almost shut blue-purple. I used to train soldiers to survive bullet wounds. But seeing my son like that, I couldn't even blink. A nurse approached. Her badge said Kathy Davenport. Voice steady but eyes broken. Mr. Cooper, your son is stable, but barely. CT shows a depressed skull fracture. He's lucky. Who did this? She froze a second too long. I caught that hesitation. The police are investigating. Behind her stood a detective, tall, mid-40s, coat too heavy for California heat. Detective Leon Platt. He introduced himself. We'll talk soon. I stared through the glass again. Freddie had braces last year. Kids laughed at him then. He smiled anyway. He was the gentle kind, the type that helped neighbors fix fences, carried groceries for old ladies. He never fought, never hurt anyone. I taught him peace after living my life in war. I thought that was enough protection. 3 hours passed without movement. I sat beside him, replaying fragments of our last fishing trip. He'd asked about studying veterinary medicine. Said he loved animals because they don't pretend. When Platt came back, the truth didn't come easy. There were witnesses, he said carefully. They saw 7 players from the high school team surround him in the locker room after practice. It escalated. They thought he insulted one of their girlfriends. So they tried to kill him. Mr. Cooper, names? Still in process. But these kids, their families are well connected. I'll keep you posted, but you should be prepared. Internal pressures might slow this. That's when the soldier in me started scanning the room. Small signs. No body cam on the detective's chest. 2 uniformed cops standing by the door, acting casual but nervous. The kind of nervous that smells like orders from above. I nodded once. Understood. When he left, I stayed silent. No emotion, no outburst. Just silence. That's what they trained us for when pain becomes data. As night fell, the ICU monitors dimmed. I stood by Freddie's side, hand resting on his arm. His pulse was weak but steady. I'm here, son, I whispered. You hold on. That's an order. The nurse said the next 48 hours were critical. But I could already feel the clock ticking toward something worse. At 6:18 p.m., I stepped outside for air. The hospital parking lot looked ordinary. Cars, wind, distant sirens. Then I noticed the SUV parked 3 rows down. Black Lincoln. No plates. Windows tinted higher than legal. Static hum in my chest. Instinct saying watch. A man sat inside, silhouette only. He didn't move. Just watched me. I started walking slowly toward him when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Mr. Cooper? A male voice. It's best you don't push the investigation. Kids fight. You understand soldiers make sacrifices, sometimes at home too. I froze mid-step. Who are you? Silence. Then, you don't want this. For your sake, for his. The line went dead. The Lincoln drove off before I reached it. Inside, Detective Platt stood talking to the chief nurse. They both glanced at me, then away. That's when I realized. Everyone already knew this wouldn't go by the book. I sat back in the ICU chair, stared at the ventilator, remembered every time I told myself violence ends with discharge papers. That old lie didn't age well. When I leaned forward, my reflection in the glass looked nothing like a civilian. The face looking back was operational, eyes narrow, calm, empty. I pulled out the chain from under my shirt, dog tags dulled from years of sand and blood. I told myself I buried this part of me. I whispered, but maybe some wars follow you home. Hours bled into early dawn. Machines beeped, monitors blinked, and sometimes Freddy's fingers twitched. Once, I thought he squeezed back. Doctor said reflex. I said mission. By sunrise, Platt returned again, holding a folder. We reviewed surveillance, he said. Cameras went dark between 4:15 and 4:37. System malfunction. I smiled, dry, humorless. How convenient. He hesitated, lowering his voice. There's pressure from above. The mayor's son is involved. I'm telling you off the record. Keep your distance, Mr. Cooper. Let it go. Let it go. That phrase always sounds softer than what it means. Bury it. Platt left the file on the table beside my son's bed. I opened it. Photos of the locker room. Blood sprayed across a trophy display. A shoe print on the tiles. Custom football cleats. 7 sets. 7 names. All redacted. My reflection on the glass blurred with my son's pale face through it. He looked peaceful, the kind of peace that comes after exhaustion, not safety. I tapped the side of the bed. Don't quit on me, kid, I murmured. They train me to end wars. But this time, I stopped, the words brittle in my throat. This time I'm ending something else. Behind me, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Quick, deliberate. I turned just as the hospital lights flickered once, then again. A nurse poked her head out from the station down the hall. Confused. Then another. Lights died completely. Backup power kicked in 5 seconds later. Only then I noticed. The folder on the bedside table was gone. Outside, the parking lot stretched gray under sodium lights. And there it was again, the Lincoln. Parked closer now. Engine off, headlights dimmed. Someone wanted me to know they were watching. I stood still, memorizing every faint reflection through the windshield. The way the driver's wrist gleamed, metallic, maybe a watch, maybe a badge. My phone buzzed again. Text message this time. Sleep while you can. That's when the quiet clicked into certainty. This wasn't random teenage violence. This was tactical, directed, and backed by something bigger than ego. The part of me that lived 2 decades under blackout missions, foreign skies, and impossible orders, that part woke up completely. Okay, I whispered to the night. If you think I forgot how to hunt, you're wrong. As the first light of dawn crawled across my son's bandaged face, I made one silent promise. For you, Freddy, I'll bring them all into the light. The hospital cafeteria was nearly empty when Detective Platt slid into the chair across from me. The coffee in his hand looked like sludge, but smelled like someone else's hangover. He didn't speak for a moment, and neither did I. Long night? He asked, voice low. Feels longer than deployments. He nodded knowingly. You've been military. Delta, I said flatly. No pride in it, just fact. That single word seemed to settle something between us. He leaned in, glancing around as if even the walls were wired. Look, Ray, I've done this job over 20 years. But this one, he paused, rubbing his temple. This one isn't about kids anymore. It's about who their fathers are. Name them. I can't. Not yet. But I can tell you what you're up against. The school board already called a closed session. The DA's office hasn't filed charges. Every lead, every report, it's getting logged, deleted, or sealed within hours. These families have deep pockets and private protection contracts. I clenched my fists under the table, feeling veins tighten. You saying justice has a salary now? Platt's sigh was the sound of a man drowning slowly. I'm saying be smart. You've got a son to pray for, not a fight to pick. He's not gone yet. I looked at him squarely. And if they think I'll kneel, they picked the wrong father. Platt stood, hesitating. Your ex-Delta, I get it. But these people bury things better than we do bodies. Then he was gone, leaving behind the bitter smell of fear and burnt brew. That night, I couldn't rest. I sat outside the ICU window, watching the slow pulse line flicker. Morgan finally showed up, Freddie's mother. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, makeup smudged, hair tied in a knot. Ray, her voice cracked. You promised peace after you retired. And I gave it to you. To us. And now. I whispered, they brought the war home. Tears rimmed her eyes. You'll lose yourself again. I shook my head. I already did, the moment I saw him bleed. She stepped forward, placing her hand on my chest. Don't do this. Don't turn into him, please. Into who? Into the soldier. The ghost who came home, but never really did. Her words sliced deep. She left before I could answer. I didn't stop her. Some nightmares you can't share twice. 2 days later, the investigation made its way to the local news. Just a headline. Student in critical condition after locker room brawled. Brawl. That word was deliberate. A PR shield. I visited the school myself that afternoon. The principal, Mrs. Wesson, met me outside her office, chin tight, rehearsed smile plastered on. Mr. Cooper, I understand your anger, but you have to let the process. Stop pretending you care, I interrupted. Where are the students? They've been suspended pending. Suspended? I laughed coldly. My son's skull is fractured, and they get suspension? Try again. Her eyes darted nervously toward a camera mounted in the corner. Mr. Cooper, please. That's when I saw him. Grant Tyler Jr., quarterback, 6'2", walking past the window. He looked at me once, smirked, then whispered to the girl beside him. They both laughed. I stepped into the hallway, every nerve wired to danger. You think this is funny, son? He stopped, grin fading slightly. Sir, I didn't. Call me sir again, and you'll forget what bone structure feels like. The girl gasped. The principal yelled my name. But the boy just smiled again. The reckless kind of smile born from fathers who could buy silence. You can't touch me, Mr. Cooper. He was right. Legally, I couldn't. Not yet. But there's law, and then there's consequence. That evening, I parked outside the school lot again, watching parents pick up kids from practice. SUVs lined up, laughter spilling out of car windows. That's when I saw it. A man leaning on a Range Rover, watching me just as I watched him. He looked mid-50s, expensive suit, the kind you wear when you own judges. He smiled thinly as I started the engine, rolled down his tinted window just enough to speak. We're sorry for your son's injuries, he said smoothly. Boys make mistakes. We can make it right. By right, you mean disappear the truth? He shrugged. Names don't help anyone. Take care of your family. Don't make this worse. I stepped closer, eyes locked on his. You've mistaken my silence for surrender. He tilted his head, amused. You're retired, Delta. Time to act like it. I clenched my teeth hard enough to taste blood. I might be retired, but I never lost certification. His smirk faltered. Good. He drove off fast, tires squealing against asphalt. Later that night, I sat in my truck outside the hospital again, headlights off. Used the same habits from old surveillance work. Small notebook, time-stamped movements, shift patterns, vehicle plates. The same black Lincoln passed the entrance 3 times in an hour. Always slow. Always watching. I recorded plate numbers. All fake. All government pattern. This wasn't just wealthy privilege. This was a network. Inside, I found Detective Platt near the vending machines. They're watching my family now, I told him. I figured they might, he said tiredly. I warned you. You didn't warn hard enough. He lowered his eyes. You're scaring me, Ray. You've got that 1,000-yard stare again. I leaned close. That stare kept me alive. It'll keep my son alive, too. He grabbed my arm. Listen, the DA's son is one of them. That alone makes this untouchable. But there's something else. You know a Grant Tyler. My silence said enough. His father owns a private defense firm, Tactical dynamics. Contracts with the Pentagon. Black budget territory. I leaned back, connecting the dots. I served beside a Grant Tyler once. Helmand Province, 2003. That bastard left my men hanging during an ambush. Platt looked unsettled now. Then you already know what kind of man you're facing. Yeah, I said softly. A coward with money. When I reached my truck that night, a folded note was tucked beneath the wiper. Plain font. Black ink. Drop it, or your son won't be the only one in a coma. The paper smelled faintly of oil and tobacco, military-issue gloves. Not civilian. I burned it on the spot, watched the flames curl the edges into ash. Then I opened my glove box, reassembling the sidearm I hadn't touched since Afghanistan. Each click of assembly echoed through the car like a countdown. Safety off. Magazine in. Rack and ready. Before dawn, I sat again beside Freddie's hospital bed, his hand cold but present. When your mom wakes up, she'll see me changed again, I whispered. But you'll understand why. Machines hummed. Shadows shifted as morning light crept through blinds. Behind me, the nurse walked by quietly, pretending not to notice the weapon holstered under my jacket. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. The man I used to be was gone, and what stood in his place was everything he trained to bury. The community center smelled like bleach and politics. The invitation had come from the school board, worded politely, but I could read between lines. To discuss resolution and community understanding. I'd been in interrogation rooms with the same tone. I walked in wearing plain clothes, sleeves rolled up, nothing tactical. But instinctively, I counted exits, ceiling cameras, and the number of men in expensive shoes. 7 of them. Each had a son connected to the assault. Each had a face that said untouchable. At the center table, Superintendent Rogers gestured kindly. Mr. Cooper, we all want healing. These boys made a mistake. Stop there, I said, voice calm but sharp. They didn't make a mistake. They made a choice. A whisper moved through the room. One of the fathers, heavy-set, Rolex glinting, leaned back with a smirk. Look, Ray, none of us want this dragging out. Doctors say your boy might recover. We're willing to cover all expenses. Quietly, I met his eyes. Money's not the currency I deal in. Another one snorted. Then what do you want? Jail time for teenage boys. What I want, I said slowly, is accountability. And if the system won't give it, I'll take it another way. They shifted uncomfortably, half scoff, half fear. One of them tapped a folder on the table. Word of advice. We all did our time in service, Mr. Cooper. Some of us higher than you. Don't forget which side still carries authorization to act. There it was, confirmation. Not coincidence. Not privilege. Tactical men behind spoiled children. I stood up slowly. You just confirmed more than you think. Sit down, one barked. I didn't. I just looked at each of them one by one, memorizing every eye twitch, every fake calm. You know what Delta taught me? My voice dropped to a near whisper. When someone threatens your team, you eliminate the chain, not the soldier. Then I walked out. By nightfall, the adrenaline had burned to quiet steel. The streets of my small town flickered under sodium lights, calm, suburban perfection, like a movie set hiding right underneath. I stopped 2 blocks from the meeting hall, killed the headlights, and pulled out an old folder from my military days. Inside was the contact for a former teammate, Tristan Cole. Last I heard, Tristan did freelance security for defense contracts. If these men shared any roots with my past, he'd know. I called. 1 ring, 2. Click. Ray Cooper. Didn't expect this number again. His voice came through gravel deep. I need intel, I said. Tactical dynamics. Grant Tyler Sr. Long pause. Ray, don't stir that nest. That guy's made the Pentagon blink. You cross him, you'll vanish before your next cup of coffee. They went after my kid. Silence. Then Tristan sighed. Okay. Tyler's firm runs some quiet logistics work, black routes, foreign arms recovery. He hires ghost operators, ex-Deltas, SEALs, contractors. And yeah, Some of the men on his payroll served with you, including one named Hale. Victor Hale? Yeah. What? He was in the room tonight. Tristan swore softly under his breath. Then you're deep in it, brother. These men aren't just parents. They're wealthy veterans hiding dirty contracts. You touch one, you trigger all. I watched headlights crawl past as he spoke. Then I guess I better not touch them, I said. I'll dismantle them instead. Ray, his tone turned warning. You come for them. They'll use every contact to make you disappear. I've already been invisible. And I hung up. The next few days moved quietly. No police updates. No arrests. But the security around the fathers increased. Private guards, surveillance vans, tinted SUVs at every school event. They were circling wagons. I began mapping patterns, old habits returning like muscle memory. Photographed license plates, traced cross accounts through public records. By midnight on the third day, I had 7 fathers connected to one entity, Tactical Dynamics Group. That's when I saw it. An address listed under an inactive training facility 20 miles outside town. I drove out. No lights, no noise, parking half a mile away. Approached on foot. Chain link fence, warning sign, restricted property, private security, live fire area. The perimeter looked abandoned, yet faint lights pulsed from a warehouse deeper inside. I slipped through a cut section of fence. Landmarks, routes, cover. My mind drew blueprints automatically. Inside, I saw rows of crates, military emblazoned, but mismatched lot codes. Illegal exports, maybe weapons or tactical gear. I took photos. Then my flashlight caught something engraved on a lift crate. An old insignia burned into metal. Wolf, 7. That stopped me cold. Wolf, 7 was my old Delta squad. The one that went off-book in Helmand in '03. The one led by Grant Tyler. That emblem meant one thing. The same men who abandoned civilians back then were still operating under new contracts. And now, they were the ones covering their sons' crimes. Footsteps echoed. Deep male voices, steady, professional. I killed the light instantly, crouched between crates. 2 men entered, flashlights cutting through dust. You sure no one's been in here? Nah. Just a local reporter snooping earlier. We handled it. Handled. That word meant death in my lexicon. They turned. I caught a clear glimpse of one man's neck. Tattoo. A wolf head circled by coordinates. The same emblem I just saw on the crate. Not coincidence. I memorized his face, then crawled to the side exit and slipped back into the night. Another inch closer to truth, and another line to cross soon. When I returned home just before dawn, headlights trailed me for 3 miles, then faded off. I parked, breathing steady. On my porch lay a package wrapped plain in brown paper. No label, no note, just a mark, a single wolf emblem drawn in black ink. Inside was a torn photo, me and my old Delta unit. Faces crossed out one by one, except mine. Beneath it, a line in red marker. You left the pack. Now the pack comes for you. I stood under the flickering porch light, photo trembling in my hand like a warning from my past. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was cleanup. And I was the last unfinished mission they intended to erase. I looked out at the horizon, dawn just starting to crack through smoke-colored sky. My voice came out quiet but certain. You trained me for war. You should have remembered. I don't lose the same one twice. Dawn glazed the horizon in faint red, the kind of red that reminded me of smoke and memory. I hadn't slept. The photo from that package sat on my table, faces crossed out one by one. All men I'd once trusted with my life. Grant Tyler, Victor Hale, Preston Wolfe, and me, the last one still breathing. Every cross mark whispered a message. We're not done. I brewed coffee, didn't drink it. My phone buzzed once, unknown number again. I let it ring. A second later, the TV turned on by itself. Screen static, then a voice, digitally filtered. You're trespassing where you no longer belong, Cooper. You should have stayed retired. I stepped closer, jaw set. You should have stayed human. The screen flickered out. They were watching me everywhere now, tracking, taunting, underestimating. And that was their first mistake. By noon, I was standing inside Tristan Cole's old garage. He hadn't shaved, half-empty beer cans scattered on a dusty workbench, a black pit bull snoring in the corner. "Ray," he said, tone tight, "you got the wolf emblem? You were supposed to burn that stuff." They didn't burn it. They branded it. I dropped the photo in front of him. He froze. His eyes hardened. "They're still running ops. More like laundering them. These men are the fathers of the kids who put my son in a coma. Their boys think they're untouchable. Guess who taught them that?" Tristan rubbed his temple. "Grant Tyler was your CO? You remember that raid in Hellman, the one that went sideways because he sold coordinates. I finished for him. I remember." He nodded grimly. "Ray, that wasn't official Black Ops. That was personal enrichment disguised as patriotism. Those same men formed tactical dynamics after court-martial cover-ups. It's not just greed. It's network control. You expose them. You expose government contracts that never existed." I stared him down. "Then it's time the world sees what loyalty really costs." Tristan shifted uneasy. "You're thinking revenge. I'm thinking justice. The kind that won't make CNN because it still terrifies the people who built it." He sighed. "If you're going in, at least arm up." He opened a locker. Inside lay a row of neatly oiled weapons, none civilian. He handed me a compact SCAR pistol, suppressor attached. "You didn't get it from me." "I didn't get anything," I muttered. Late that evening, I drove toward Tactical Dynamics headquarters, a converted steel complex off Route 49. But I didn't go in. Not yet. I wanted them to notice me first. The Lincoln shadowed again. I let it. After 3 miles, it turned, leading me to a gated mansion, Grant Tyler's home. He wanted to be found. Security cameras dotted the fence. A guard stood outside. Posture all wrong, too rigid. Ex-military, just like the rest. I parked nearby and just watched. Tyler came out a few minutes later, gray suit, calm, confident, talking to another suited man by the garden fire pit. Their laughter carried across the fence, rich, weightless, poisonous. And then I saw it, a familiar tattoo wrapping Tyler's wrist. Wolf, 7 insignia. Confirmed. My phone pinged again. A message. "You look better in the binoculars, Ray." I ducked, spotting the shimmer of a camera lens half hidden in a nearby tree. Cheap tactic. They wanted me rattled. Instead, I smiled. I sent a reply. "You forgot to check your perimeter." Seconds later, I fired once, a perfect shot. The camera shattered, sparks like fireflies in the dark. Message received. Back at the hospital, Morgan sat beside Freddie's bed. She looked pale, exhausted. "I saw your truck outside town," she said quietly. "You're watching them now, aren't you?" "Trying to keep ahead," I said. "Don't lie to me." Her eyes glistened. "You think getting even brings him back?" I stayed silent. She grabbed my arm. "Ray, we already lost you once to combat. I can't lose you again." I brushed her hand off gently. "You already lost me the night they put him in that bed." She flinched, then whispered, broken, "They'll kill you." I looked at our son's motionless body, 4 tubes glinting under soft light. Let them try. The next morning brought more noise. Reporters staked outside my driveway, trying to get a quote about rumors of my harassment complaint against the students' families. Someone had leaked it. Probably them. But that was fine. Let them think I was just another angry veteran. Predictable, unstable. The real move was about to start elsewhere. Using an encrypted laptop Tristan sent over, I accessed security feeds leaked anonymously from Tyler's training depot. Multiple names popped on manifests, contractors, ex-soldiers, and one I hadn't seen since '03, Captain Victor Hale. Last I heard, Hale had gone missing after Hellman. Now he was here, listed under private instructor. The screen pinged with a live feed from their ground floor. Hale walking past camera range, same tattoo on his neck. Behind him, shelves of crates labeled civilian surplus, serial code scrubbed. Illegal shipment fronts. Every piece fit. I smiled grimly. The boys were spoiled. The fathers were criminals. The system was rotten. But I was patient. I heard movement by my window. Faint, careful, like boot treads on old wood. Delta instincts switched on instantly. I grabbed the scar, moved quietly, pivoted by the frame. Shadow outside. I waited. 3-2. Glass cracked. A silenced round hit the picture frame instead of my head. I dropped, rolled, fired twice through the curtain. One hit, muffled scream. I moved outside in seconds, scanning. The shooter lay half-hidden behind a parked truck, blood blooming under him. I stepped close, gun aimed steady. He looked up, young, terrified. Civilian outfit, private patch on vest. They said you'd stay quiet. Bad intel, I said coldly. He coughed once. They're coming tonight. The fathers. Planning a meeting. Gun club. Off County 14. He exhaled hard, body limp, gone. At midnight, rain came down sharp as needles. I parked a half-mile from the county gun club, under the rusted billboard. The floodlights inside revealed 7 cars. I watched through thermal lens, figures clustered in a circle. All 7 fathers, with Grant Tyler at the center. He was holding something, my son's photo. Their mouths moved, laughter spilling. Toasting whiskey. Celebrating silence. I lowered the lens, heartbeat steady. Not rage, focus. Across the field, my phone buzzed. Text from Tristan. You sure about this? I typed back. I don't start wars. I finish them. I moved closer, blending into night. Rain hid sound. Shadows hid ghosts. The rain blurred everything into gray, but some memories cut through any storm. I kept low along the fence of the county gun club, each drip of water echoing like time running out. 7 fathers stood under the floodlight canopy, laughing over my son's photograph. I'd seen insurgents celebrate kills with less arrogance. Grant Tyler raised his glass. To loyalty and legacy. Loyalty. That word turned bitter in my chest. I pulled my hood lower and recorded every face with the lens attached to my jacket. Flashes of earlier wars flickered in my mind. Broken villages, dead quiet after shell fire. The difference now? The battlefield wore golf shoes and suits. When their meeting wrapped up, I shadowed the last 2 vehicles to leave. They went opposite directions, probably deliberate. So I followed the last to move. An Audi with military-grade tint and familiar plates. It drove 20 minutes before turning into a private airstrip. I parked far behind the tree line and got out on foot. Through night vision, I spotted Victor Hale stepping out of the car, wearing the same smug calm he'd had in Hellman when he left my men for dead. His hair was shorter, but the eyes hadn't changed, still snake cold. He spoke to a pilot loading crates. No paperwork. You know the drill. The man nodded. Hale's phone buzzed, and what he said next froze me. Cooper's still sniffing around. Tyler wants confirmation he can't be traced. The pilot asked, do we clean it tonight? Hale smirked. Tyler's handling that. Calls it the silence protocol. My pulse steadied to that old battle rhythm. No panic, no shake. Just patterns. Protocol was military speak for sanctioned erasure. They were about to clean the mess, including me. I retreated carefully, caught every word on camera. Back home, thunder rolled low and distant. Morgan sat awake in the dark, eyes red. You're bleeding, she whispered when I came in. Just rain, I said, though the cut across my arm told otherwise. She didn't move. They came by here. My chest tightened. Who? 2 men in suits. Said they represented the district's legal team. But, Ray, one of them had a Delta ring just like yours. I exhaled slowly. You didn't sign anything? She shook her head. No, but they said if you keep pushing, Freddie's life support might be compromised. I gripped the doorframe hard, wood splintering. They threatened my son inside a hospital. She met my eyes. You promised you'd never turn into a monster again. Then they shouldn't have made me one. That night, I sent the gun club footage to an old contact, Aaron Marsh, investigative journalist I once rescued overseas. Her reply came 2 hours later. Are you insane? These are untouchables. Touch them anyway. I typed back. They'll kill you before morning. Then publish it before dawn. But there was no dawn in the hours that followed. Only the low hum of vehicles pulling up outside my house around 3:12 a.m. I peeked through the blinds. 4 SUVs, all black, headlights dead. I turned to Morgan. Go to Freddie's hospital room. Now. She wanted to argue, but my voice changed, command tone. She understood that voice meant move fast or die. As soon as she left through the back alley, I grabbed the hard drive from my desk, pocketed it, and switched off every light. My mind tracked angles, cover, entry risk. Same pattern I'd run 1,000 times overseas. Except this time, the war was parked in my driveway. The first window shattered. Flashbang followed. Roofline shook. White light cracked across the living room. I rolled behind the couch as glass sprayed. 2 silhouettes came through the frame. Controlled, professional, silencers ready. I fired once, twice. Both dropped before they hit the tile. Another pair came from the hall. I ducked low, kicked the table leg upright for shield, and swept left. One screamed, falling backward over his partner. The smell of cordite filled the room. It was over in 20 seconds. Quiet as sin. I stood there, chest heaving, knowing more would come. But right now, silence itself was evidence. The security cams I'd placed earlier had caught everything. I dumped the body's weapons into a duffel, masked my prints, and stepped out into rain again, blending with night. By sunrise, Detective Platt showed up at my temporary hideout, a car wash lot on the outskirts. He didn't look surprised to see me alive. Jesus, Ray, what did you do? They came for me first. There are 4 dead men in suits on your property. They weren't there to talk. Platt rubbed his face. You just made this nuclear. These aren't your regular hitmen. One of those guys was ex-NSA detail. Then NSA just tried to murder a citizen. You want to fix your badge's reputation? Start there. He looked almost sorry. The chief ordered your arrest. They're calling you a fugitive. Domestic threat. I snapped. You going to arrest me, Leon? He shook his head. I should, but I've seen the same file. Freddie's case was erased last night, digital and physical. Then it's war by their rules. I can't be part of this. I never asked you to. Later that day, while moving through downtown under crowd cover, I spotted something on the side of a news screen. Breaking, Delta Force veteran under investigation for assault on officers. My picture. My name. They flipped the script fast, made me the killer, the lunatic. Perfect distraction while they cleaned the rest. But the drive in my pocket held the truth. Every face, every word, every illegal shipment. I just needed the right way to release it. That's when Tristan called again. Ray, the silence protocol. It's not just a hit order. It's designed to erase entity records under cyber justification. They're going to delete you from systems, birth cert, bank, everything. You won't exist by midnight. Then I've got 12 hours to make noise. Back at the hospital, Morgan was sitting beside Freddie again. She flinched when I entered, bloodied sleeve torn. They said you shot people. They shot first. She looked up at me, voice shaking. Your son is unconscious. You're breaking laws. Where does it end? When the men who broke our boy's skull can't sleep again, I said quietly. I leaned close to Freddie's bed. Son, if you can't hear me, hold on just a little bit longer. His pulse beeped strong for a second, or maybe it was my wishful thinking. Outside, thunder cracked again, but this time it wasn't weather. It was the sound of justice warming up. I left the hospital walking straight into rain. My burner phone buzzed once. New message, unknown source. We missed our shot, Cooper. Next time, we take the whole family. I typed back with one hand while holstering the other weapon. So will I. For the first time in years, the war in me wasn't about flags or nations. It was about bloodlines, and one I refused to let die quietly. By the time dusk swallowed the city, I wasn't just a father anymore. I was a headline waiting to happen. The networks painted me as a violent, unstable ex-soldier spiraling after his son's injury. The 7 fathers had managed to turn me into the threat while burying everything else. Smart move. But precision only matters until one bullet lands wrong. And their first crack was coming. I sat in a cheap motel off Highway 9, watching the glow of a dozen news feeds bouncing off the wall. Tristan's encrypted message arrived right on time. Send evidence now. I've set up a leak channel under international proxy. I copied the gun club footage, the video of Hale at the airstrip, and the recordings of the hit attempt. I hit send. Then I waited. 10 minutes later, the first video went public. It spread like wildfire. Hashtags, headlines, outrage. Former Delta operator exposes corruption network. Within an hour, the story hit 3 major outlets. I almost exhaled. Almost. Then the next headline popped up. Grant Tyler found dead. Suicide or setup? I froze. The timing was too clean. The men were killing their own to cut traces. I headed for the hospital. Freddie had made it through another surgery. Light progress, still critical. Platt intercepted me in the hallway. His tie loosened, eyes sleepless. You need to leave this building, Ray. Right now. Why? They're calling in federal oversight. You'll disappear the moment they find you here. I looked through the glass at my son, laying there like a soldier who never came home. If they touch him, I don't care what happens to me. Platt stepped closer. You think this is the same war? It's not. It's worse, I said. At least in war, enemies don't wear badges. He swallowed hard. You still don't get it. They already pinned Tyler's death on you. Ballistics at his property matched your old military rifle serial number. I stared at him in silence. That rifle was destroyed 10 years ago. Records say otherwise. They forged it, Ray. You're their scapegoat. I nodded slowly. Then I'll play the part until the curtain drops. That night, I slipped into Freddie's room one last time before vanishing again. Machines hummed. Monitors beeped their endless code of life. I sat down beside him, whispered low. Son, they think this story ends with me gone. But you were raised by someone who never runs from ghosts. The ECG ticked once, sharp, irregular. I looked up fast. The line steadied again. Maybe coincidence. Maybe something else. I kissed his forehead, whispered, You keep fighting. I'll dismantle every name that tried to write your ending. 2 hours later, I drove out to a private lake property registered to Victor Hale, the man still breathing. The air was heavy, thick with storm. A single light burned from the boathouse across the dock. I left my car a quarter-mile out and approached on foot. Inside, Hale was sitting with a glass of bourbon, staring at the rain pounding the window. He didn't flinch when I entered. Always wondered when you'd come, Cooper, he said. Never figured you'd forget to knock. Never figured you'd live this long, I replied. He smirked. You think that footage changes anything? The contracts we hold are older than your conscience. Tyler got sloppy. He paid the price. And Freddie, collateral, like the ones you created overseas. That hit harder than a bullet. I stepped closer, pistol aimed steady. You put that order through. No, he said calmly. I just watched it happen. I tightened my finger on the trigger, then stopped. Killing him would make me what they wanted. A monster, a fugitive, a memory erased. I lowered the weapon slightly. You'll confess. On record. He laughed. To who? Everyone who mattered already got paid. Then he froze, hearing something behind him. I hadn't come alone. Tristan stepped out of the shadows, phone recording. Hale's eyes went wide. You? Yeah, Tristan said. You left me for dead in Kandahar. Call this a long, overdue surprise. Hale's composure cracked for the first time. You can't. His voice broke. Gunfire cut him short. One clean shot through glass from outside. I dove. Tristan hit the floor. The bullet came through the window like judgment. Perfect distance, perfect kill line. Who pulled the trigger? I couldn't see, but I knew it wasn't random. When the echo died, Hale was bleeding into the floorboards. Tristan pressed his jacket over the wound, muttering, He's gone. I grabbed the fallen phone, stopping the video. No, he's not. What do you mean? His death just became part of their cover-up. But his confession, mine now. I drove until sunrise, the phone hidden inside the lining of my jacket. Hale's last words recorded clean. I reached the edge of town as thunder followed behind me like artillery chasing ghosts. At a gas station outside Rockford, I stopped for fuel. The tiny TV above the counter played breaking news. 2 dead in criminal shootout. Veteran Cooper still at large. They even used my military photo again, cropped with the headline, Delta Gone Rogue. The clerk looked at me and squinted, almost recognizing. I smiled thinly. Must look like him, huh? He nodded nervously. I left before he turned curious into alert. Back in my car, the burner vibrated. A new unknown number. I answered. Silence for a few seconds, then a voice. You think you're making progress, Cooper? Here's one for you. Your wife didn't make it to the hospital this morning. My chest tightened. What did you just say? She never arrived. Check the road cameras near county line. The call ended. For a second, it felt like the world went mute. Then everything inside me rewired to one single mission again. Find her, no matter the body count. I floored the car down the wet highway, windshield wipers slicing through madness. Road cameras near county line flickered across my hacked monitor feed. Frame by frame, I caught it, a black SUV blocking Morgan's car. She fought, kicked the door open. 2 men forced her into the van. Tagless plates. The video timestamp, 2 hours ago. My right hand went rigid on the wheel. Not shaking. Calculating. I wasn't chasing justice anymore. I was reclaiming a heartbeat from hell. As lightning cracked across the sky, I whispered to myself, you wanted Delta Force, you got it. And for the first time since Freddy fell, I stopped running. The storm didn't just pound the road, it pounded my pulse. I'd faced ambushes in Kandahar, sniper traps in deserts, but nothing compared to the silence between one missing call and a dead signal from the woman I loved. The SUV in the footage wasn't an abduction. It was a message. They wanted my reaction on clockwork, and they were about to get it. I reached the county line turnoff and killed my headlights. Muddy tire tracks gleamed under the weak flash of lightning. I crouched low, tracing them with my hand. Heavy gauge treads, tactical issue, not civilian. They turned off toward the abandoned farmhouse 2 miles east. That place used to be an armory site before Tactical Dynamics took it over. Of course it did. I parked the car behind a ridge and got out, rain slicing across my jacket. My pistol felt like an extension of heartbeat. Every step toward that barn was too quiet. Inside, light flickered. A voice called faint through static speakers, digitally distorted. Ray Cooper. You always were predictable. I froze. The voice wasn't Tyler's. It was Preston Wolf. He'd been the intelligence officer under our old unit, then the one who vanished after the court inquiry. You came this far, he continued from hidden speakers, calm as a lecturer. Do you remember what we told rookies, Ray? Every mission has a price. Yours is overdue. Then I saw the first thing that made my blood ice over. Morgan's necklace, hanging from a nail. I pushed forward. The barn smelled of oil and rotting hay. My boot hit a shell casing. Near the far corner, a shape, slumped, hands tied, hair soaked red. Morgan! My voice cracked before I could stop it. I moved closer, gun steady. It wasn't her. It was one of the Father's hired men, wearing her ring in his hand. Eyes open, throat cut, message carved into his forearm. Stop or she bleeds. Every muscle in my body locked. Delta training said control emotion. Human instinct said burn the world. For the first time, I didn't know which one was louder. When I stepped back into the rain, thunder rolled across the fields. My burner buzzed. New message, video attached. I hit play. Morgan, tied to a chair, eyes hollow but alive. Behind her, a dark room, plastic-covered walls, Tactical Dynamics wolf emblem painted in black. A man's voice off camera, calm, rehearsed. If you want her back, Ray, you come home. The way you left us. Alone. The video ended. I stared at the screen until my reflection looked like someone I didn't recognize. Eyes sharp, unblinking, not father, not husband, just trained precision waiting for purpose. Tristan's voice came through the radio line a minute later. I tracked signal origin. It's from Hale's private bunker complex, 20 miles north. You'll need heavy support. I'm not asking. He sighed. You'll die down there. Then I'll take the rest of them with me. And I hung up. The bunker's entrance looked like another abandoned winery, security disguised as neglect. 2 guards patrolled the gate. Rain masked my approach until 16 feet. One blinked the wrong way. I swept his feet, silenced the second before he could call it in. Clean, silent, surgical. Inside was another world, industrial hum. Faint lights running along the floor, concrete tunnels lined with racks of illegal tech shipments. Footsteps echoed ahead. 2 voices, bored, unaware. I ghosted behind them, used one for leverage, the other for information after. He whispered quick, Level 3. She's with Tyler and Wolf. They said you wouldn't make it. I just did. I replied, before knocking him out cold. Level 3 reeked of antiseptic and gun oil. Security cams followed me down narrow halls, motion sensors lighting in brief flashes. And then I saw glass rooms. Inside them, crates, drone gear, laptops open to encrypted financial streams. Millions, all tied to government transfers hidden under community defense budgets. The monsters weren't hiding anymore. They were operating under patriotic funding. At the end of the hall stood a reinforced door, Wolf insignia in the center. I placed my hand against the keypad frame, pressed a pulse spark from a stolen ID patch. Lock released with a hiss. Morgan sat inside, bruised but breathing. Rope burned her wrists, duct tape at her mouth. When she saw me, her eyes widened, tears cutting through grime. I cut her free fast. It's okay. You're okay. She shook her head fiercely, tugging my sleeve, eyes darting behind me. Instinct fired. I twisted right. Gunfire ripped across the doorway. Sparks exploded from metal walls. I dragged Morgan down behind a desk, fired blind, heard a grunt, then silence. From the smoke, a figure appeared, Wolf himself, calm, unhurried, wearing our old Delta insignia on his chest. You look tired, Ray. You look guilty, I said. He smiled faintly. We gave you peace once. You wasted it chasing ghosts. You broke every code we swore to protect. Codes. His voice cold, cutting. We wrote the codes. We are the system. He stepped closer, still talking. Your boy was accident collateral. Tyler's son got rough. It happens. We cleaned it up. But you, he laughed, you made it holy. My hand clenched around the trigger, rage trembling under control. Say his name again. Freddie Cooper. Weak stock for a soldier's son. I fired. The bullet hit his shoulder, spinning him halfway. His grin vanished. Morgan screamed as he grabbed for cover. I fired again, this time through his leg. He fell hard, blood blooming into his gray jacket. I walked up, gun aimed steady at his chest. You hurt my wife, my boy, and turned justice into profit. You think the flag hides monsters like you forever? He coughed blood, shaking his head. You can't expose us all. There's no system that'll take our sins. I know, I said coldly, pressing my phone's active camera toward him. But the internet will. His last smirk died as the red recording light blinked bright. Morgan leaned into me, whisper cracked. Ray, we have to go? More are coming. I know. I grabbed her hand. But I needed the world to hear him first. We rushed through the tunnel as alarms began to scream overhead. Red lights flooded the halls. Outside, the storm had only grown worse. Rain pounding, sirens blaring in the distance. We stopped near the ridge, wind howling through the trees. Morgan touched my face gently. You saved me. I nodded once. Not yet. They're not done. Then what happens now? I looked toward the distant sound of helicopters approaching. Now, I said, the wolves hunt the wrong man. Helicopter rotors carved through the thunder, their rhythm pounding against my ribs like war drums that never learned to stop. Morgan held on as I steered us through the pine trail, mud flinging under the tires. Every flash of lightning showed another second shaved off our lead. "They'll find us," she said, her voice shaking but fierce. "I'm counting on it," I said. "But next time, they'll bring the news cameras too." Because the video of Wolf's confession was already live. Tristan had uploaded it as we escaped. The clip spread through social feeds faster than sirens could. Wolf had named their network, their connections, their crimes. It was undeniable. Proof. But proof didn't mean safety. It meant target. By morning, every major outlet split the story in half. Veteran whistleblower or domestic terrorist. Military contractor exposed in secret ops, Delta Force scandal. The Wolf, 7 connection. The Fathers' empires started cracking. Sponsors withdrew. Police raided warehouses, but conveniently, all crucial data burned overnight. I watched it all from an abandoned motel outside the state line while Morgan slept in the back seat. She looked peaceful, despite everything, bruised, exhausted, human. The woman who saw every version of me and still stayed long enough to be taken because of it. I touched her hand gently. "Almost over," I whispered. "Then we disappear." But deep down, I knew that was a lie. Wolves don't stop until the last one starves. Around noon, my burner buzzed. "Tristan, you're trending," he said dryly. "Congrats. Half the country thinks you're a hero, the other half wants to see you hang." "What about Wolf?" "Hospitalized. He's playing coma for sympathy. But there's a file dump scheduled from his cloud. You'll be exonerated if we last another day. And if we don't," Tristan exhaled, "then at least the world knows whose kids put your boy in that bed." I rubbed my jaw, thinking, where's Hale's data stored? "Facility north of County General, one you hit weeks back." I froze. "You mean they're still using the same relay near the hospital?" "Yeah." "What?" "Because that's where Freddy is." I turned the engine key without another word. The drive back felt endless. Every highway sign blurred. Every passing mile mocked the idea of rest. Morgan sat silent beside me now, staring through the windshield like she'd run out of words that mattered. Finally, she asked, barely above a whisper, "You think Freddy's safe there?" "No," I said. "But he's bait. And they know it." When we reached the edge of County General, smoke already poured into evening sky. Sirens howled across the parking lot. SWAT vans blocked entrances. And through the blur of chaos, I spotted something worse: black SUVs. "The same kind. They're here," I said. Morgan grabbed my arm. "Ray, the police won't see the difference. To them, everyone here's a terrorist." I handed her the car key. "Go south. Safe house near Riverbend. Wait for Tristan." "What about you?" "I'm done waiting." She hesitated, then met my eyes, sad, steady. "Don't die inside again." "I already did." She left. I moved through the chaos in disguise. Paramedic vest, mask, hospital badge. Years of infiltration kicked in naturally. Inside, power flickered. Smoke trailed along the ceiling, alarms blaring. Freddy's room was still intact, barely. He lay under blinking monitors, nurses scattering as the upper floors locked down. Then I saw them. 2 of Tyler's remaining enforcers, heading straight toward ICU. Guns under their coats, pretending to evacuate personnel. I came up behind the first one, clubbed him silent against the wall, caught the second mid-turn. We fought hard, rough, brief, 30 seconds of muscle and instinct. His shoulder cracked before his head met the tile. I dragged their radios, switched channels. Heard chatter. "VIP is en route to level C. Repeat, extraction inbound in 5. Extraction. That meant whoever was left to control the cleanup was heading here. Through the hospital window, I saw motion. 5 SUVs, military escort. And in the middle, Grant Tyler's personal guard. But Grant was dead. His replacement had arrived. His eldest son. The boy who started this. Level C. That's where it would end. The elevator rattled as I descended. Echoes of gunfire above turned faint, replaced by the deep hum of ventilation. I stepped out onto what used to be the experimental surgery wing, now gutted, powered by generator lights. At the far end, glass walls showed the makeshift command center, screens showing news feeds and security visuals of my own movements. In the center stood Grant Tyler Jr., smirk still carved in place, flanked by armed men. He looked up, unbothered. "You really are indestructible, Mr. Cooper. You're standing in the same hospital where my boy still fights to live." I'd choose words carefully. "He's lucky," he said casually. "Being in a coma means he'll never see what you became. I became what you built." He leaned on the table, voice dripping arrogance. "You think your video matters? The narrative's already rewritten. By tomorrow you'll be gone, scrubbed, erased. And people will sleep easy believing we saved them from you. You sound like your father." He laughed. "Thanks." I fired once, missing him deliberately. The bullet smashed the hard drive beside his arm. "You won't clean anything else." The guards raised rifles. Chaos burst like thunder, CO2 fire extinguisher clouds, red lights flashing through haze. I dove low, rolled behind cover, moved with trained rhythm. Each breath, each aim precise. 3 guards down, 2 falling without knowing where it came from. Tyler Jr. stumbled back toward the emergency stairwell, panic replacing arrogance. I followed, boot prints and gunfire echoing behind. He reached the hallway leading to ICU and froze, Freddie's monitor beeping ahead, his son's fragile pulse marking each second. "Look at him," I said, raising my gun. "That's the boy your team tried to bury." Tyler's voice cracked. "You won't shoot me." "Right," I said quietly. "Not in front of my son." Instead, I shot the fire alarm panel beside us. The sprinklers burst open, soaking everything. Smoke gave way to water and flashing red light. Uniformed officers stormed in seconds later, weapons drawn, but not at me. Live feed cameras overhead beamed the entire confrontation straight to national news. Every angle, every word, broadcast by Tristan's reactivated loop. The Father's last deception, undone for everyone to see. Tyler Jr. screamed, "I'm the victim here." I lowered my gun, voice calm. "Then the world can decide." He lunged for me, and that's when a single electric snap filled the corridor, the surgeon's defibrillator pads, used like a stun weapon. He collapsed, convulsing, wet floor hissing under volts. Platt appeared behind the officers, breathing hard, gun ready. "It's over, Ray." "No," I said quietly, looking past him through the glass at my son's ward. "It's finally ending." As the last sirens wailed, I turned to see Freddie's fingers move. A tiny twitch, but real. My knees almost gave out. The boy still had fight left. "Of course he did," I whispered through the glass. "You held on, like I knew you would." That night, headlines exploded again. Delta whistleblower frees family in hospital siege. The wolves exposed. The system couldn't spin it anymore. The truth had gone viral, unstoppable. Still, deep inside, I knew there was one final debt unpaid. Grant Tyler Sr. might be dead, but the roots of Wolf 7 still crawled beneath governments and contracts. And I wasn't done until every trace was dragged into light. The night they came for me, the whole city went quiet. No static, no traffic, just the echo of something building in the dark. I could feel it before I heard it, like every instinct sharpened at once. County General was surrounded again. Only this time, it wasn't some covert team or hired muscle. It was everything left of the Father's network, cornered, desperate, and armed with federal-grade clearance. Helicopters hovered above the hospital roof, floodlights cutting through the rain. People inside screamed as uniformed shadows moved in unmarked gear, private mercs trying to look like law. Platt stood beside me in the security hall, his stance steady but his hands shaking. "They're saying it's a hostage recovery. Fake order from federal command. Which means they plan to erase me, live, in public," I said. "And everyone inside," he added. I looked toward Freddie's room on the monitor. My son still lay unconscious under monitor glow. "We hold here," I said quietly. "Nothing gets through those elevators." Platt looked at me like a man who knew we might die in those halls. "You're sure about this?" I chambered around. After 2 decades of war, I'm done dying anywhere else. 5 minutes later, the first breach hit. The east stairwell exploded inward, flashbangs rolling like thunder. I aimed fast, 2 shots downrange. Glass burst, alarms screamed, fire sprinklers triggered automatically. Smoke swallowed red light. Platt called over comms. They're coming in from level B2. I vented one side corridor, turned sprinklers into steam, forced visibility down to 0. The sound of boots stamping metal echoed above. While they pushed upward, I led a line of scared nurses and patients down the opposite wing, barricading ICU doors with rolling metal frames and crash carts. They're not soldiers, I told them. They're contractors. They'll retreat if their comms scramble. What if they don't? One nurse asked, shaking. Then you stay behind me. I rigged the elevators with makeshift charges, just enough for confusion. Years of Delta procedures weren't about brute force. They were about rhythm. I'd learned you don't win fights like this by overpowering. You break control. The next wave reached the lobby. Gunfire bloomed up the stairwell. I felt every vibration through the floor, every shell casing ping. Then I heard it, a command voice through a megaphone. Ray Cooper, surrender yourself. You've committed treason against your country. Treason. They always reach for that word when truth burns them. Platt patched into the building PA. They're working under falsified DOJ code. Backup's 15 minutes out. 15 minutes too long, I answered. That's when something unexpected happened. A video feed lit the lobby TVs again. The ongoing news broadcast now streaming live from inside the hospital, showing them. The mercenaries, the weapons, the chaos. Tristan had accessed the hospital's network remotely. The world was watching. Outside, yelling erupted. News helicopters gathering where gunships stood before. Floodlights flashed. The private force faltered instantly under visibility. Cooper, the voice shrieked again, desperate this time. Shut the feeds down, and we'll leave you alive. Negative, I muttered. Now they die in daylight. The fighting turned chaotic. Mercenaries pulling back, trying to avoid clear camera angles. I used that to move. With Platt covering the rear, I made for Freddy's room again. Inside, the machines flickered, storm power cutting out. I rechecked his pulse, adjusted his 4-line manually. Then, through reflection, I saw movement behind me. A shape in the glass. I turned. There he was. Grant Tyler Jr. again. Bruised, bloody, but alive. You just don't quit, he hissed. Neither did my son. He swung first. Fast, trained, unafraid. I caught his wrist, twisted. He hit the ground, elbow snapping, gun clattering away. He screamed. I grabbed his collar and dragged him against the wall. Why? I demanded. What was it worth? He spat blood. Control. Legacy. The same thing your commanders sold for wars you fought. For them, maybe. I said, voice cracking low. Not for monsters like you. He lunged again. I hit him once. Open-handed, clean. His body went limp. Outside, the real police finally arrived. Sirens loud, federal IDs checking the chaos. Floodlights painted the hospital white. 2 hours later, it was over. The mercenaries disarmed, Platt in custody for protocol violations, and me, standing among broken glass and exhausted nurses, staring at my son. Freddy's monitor beeped steady again. A doctor walked in quietly. He's stable. Might wake within 24 hours. Her words didn't register right away. I just stared, unable to move. Then Morgan walked in, mud-soaked but alive, leaning against the doorframe. He's okay, she breathed. I nodded slowly. He's okay. She stepped beside me, pressing her forehead against my shoulder. It's done, Ray. Not yet, I whispered. There's one still out there. Later that night, after the building cleared, I found an envelope in the ICU drawer. No signature, just a mark. The wolf emblem, drawn in red ink. Inside, a simple line typed in courier font. You exposed the pack. But you forgot who trained the wolves. It wasn't over. I walked outside under the ruined sky, listening to the city breathing again through chaos. Reporters shouted questions I couldn't answer. Every flash of camera light painted me as both hero and fugitive. But for the first time in weeks, rain didn't feel like punishment. It felt like survival. I looked up, water streaking down my face, and whispered, "We're still here, kid. Still fighting." Behind me, a nurse ran out, yelling, "Mr. Cooper, your son's awake." That single sentence stopped the world. I turned, heart stuttering between disbelief and prayer. For once, after endless wars and ghosts and silence, life spoke louder than revenge. Morning came slow, the kind of dawn that almost felt fake, too soft for everything left behind. The rain finally stopped. The hospital smelled like new air again, as if the world was catching its first breath after holding it for years. Freddie was awake. Not fully, not strong, but awake. His hand wrapped around mine like he used to when he was small and scared of fireworks. His voice came out cracked, tired. "Dad, what happened?" I smiled, a real one this time. "You won." His eyes drifted toward the window, sunlight cutting through clouds. "Mom's okay." I nodded. "Thanks to you." He didn't know everything, and maybe he never would. Maybe that was mercy. Downstairs, the news crews waited like wolves of a different breed, cameras hungry for closure. Headlines already spun the story into legend. Delta operative brings down rogue military network. Whistleblower turns fatherhood into a fight for truth. But I wasn't a hero. I was just a man who refused to let silence be louder than justice. Detective Platt walked in, left arm bandaged. "They cleared your name," he said. "The recordings, Wolf's files, the hit orders, all verified. You're free." I glanced at Freddie's room. Freedom's a strange word when you've buried peace to get it. You put a hand on my shoulder, then build peace out of what's left. At noon, the government issued official statements. Deep regret, internal investigation, heroes of public service. All the phrases that meant nothing. But something had changed. The men responsible were gone, their constructs burned down by their own arrogance. Morgan came in with coffee, her eyes softer than I remembered. "You did it." "We did it," I corrected. She smiled faintly. "What now?" I looked toward Freddie's room, the steady heartbeat monitor echoing through the hall. "Now we heal." Quietly. A long pause settled between us, not heavy this time, just full of meaning, no words needed. Weeks passed. Freddie began to talk again, slow but clear. Reporters tried to find us, but I changed phones, changed house, changed names. I found a job far from bases and uniformed men, teaching self-defense to kids who didn't know the difference between discipline and violence. One day, Freddie asked, "Do you miss it?" "The force." I thought long before answering. "No," I said quietly. "The real force I had was keeping you alive." He smiled weakly. "Guess Delta never retires, huh?" I laughed, something I hadn't done in years. "Only when the mission ends." But one thing stayed with me. Sometimes, when the wind is quiet and the lights go dim, I hear those same words echo back through memory. "You left the pack. Now the pack comes for you." And maybe that's true. Maybe somewhere out there, some old ghost still wants payback. But I'll be ready, not with war, but with what they never understood. Peace. Not the kind you're handed. The kind you fight to earn. The kind you bleed for. As for me, I don't sleep light anymore. I sleep knowing that monsters can fall, that truth can catch up, and that a father's love might just be the last version of justice left on earth. Because love isn't weakness. It's the last weapon that never runs out of ammo. Before you go, I want to ask you something. What would you have done if it was your family? Your son? Tell me down in the comments. And tell me where in the world you're watching from. And if this story hits somewhere deep, leave a like, subscribe, and keep that bell ready. Because our next thriller will be another epic revenge story. Darker, sharper, and unforgettable. Till then, take care of yourself and the ones you'd go to war for. What kind of stories do you want next? Emotional, military, betrayal, or wicked revenge tales? I read every comment, and I'll bring you exactly the stories you asked for.